responsible for conducting and
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping hailed Russia-China friendship as both leaders seek to bolster strategic ties and hit out at the US for threatening their countries. Black smoke, burnt cars in New Caledonia streets as unrest drags on. France deploys troops to restore calm, bans TikTok. Election fervor grips India, campaigning in full swing for the fifth phase of General Election 2024. Polling to be held in 49 seats across 6 states and 2 union territories on May 20th. And India to host Bharat Parv at Cannes Film Festival for the first time. We'll see the release of Save the Date for the first World Audio, Visual and Entertainment Summit to be hosted alongside the 55th IFFI. Chinese President Xi Jinping met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Beijing on Thursday as part of Putin's 2-day visit to China. Both leaders signed and issued a joint statement on deepening China and Russia's comprehensive strategic partnership. They also agreed to deepen their strategic partnership and slammed the United States for threatening their countries. During the talks, Xi expressed commitment to collaborate with Putin to enhance the vitality of their nations, affirming China's steadfast partnership with Russia.
China will always be a good neighbor, good friend of mutual trust with Russia, continue to consolidate the friendship between the two nations, work together to achieve the development and rejuvenation of our respective countries, and to uphold equity and justice in the world.
Choosing China for his inaugural foreign visit since his new 6-year term as Russian president, Putin highlighted the strong foundation of practical cooperation between Moscow and Beijing.
Moscow and Beijing indeed have a great background of practical cooperation. In 2023, the bilateral trade turnover has grown by almost a quarter and reached a great figure of $227 billion. China is our key partner in trade and commerce.
And DD India's Laura Westbrook sent us this report from Hong Kong. Have a look.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin received a warm welcome in China, and that close relationship between the two leaders was on full display. They held one-on-one talks as well as group talks, with Russia bringing a trade delegation as well as its foreign and defense ministers. The two sides signed documents deepening cooperation, with agreement on trade to nuclear and energy cooperation to food supplies. Chinese President Xi Jinping said that China was ready to be a good friend, partner and neighbor to Russia. He also said that when it comes to trade, that cooperation would be the driving force. Russian President Vladimir Putin, meanwhile, said the negotiations had been warm and businesslike, and he also confirmed that they had discussed the war in Ukraine. He said that both sides agreed that a political settlement was needed, and he also said that he would be briefing President Xi Jinping about the situation in Ukraine. Now, Beijing has been under increasing pressure from the United States to stop its supplies, particularly of dual-use components that end up on the battlefield. Just before this visit by Putin, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen both pressed China to stop exports that aid Russia's war effort. The U.S. has also sanctioned Chinese firms with links to Russia, and with Russia bringing its state bank governor and other ministers, there has been speculation that the two sides will be looking to circumvent any potential sanctions on Chinese state-owned banks. The US has promised there is potential for further sanctions on Chinese state-owned banks if they found evidence that they were facilitating the trade of these dual-use components in the war in Ukraine. Laura Westbrook in Hong Kong, reporting for DD India.
Russian military is advancing in all directions and establishing its position in several locations in Ukraine. This was asserted by Sergei Shoigu, the Secretary of Russia's Security Council, during a visit to Beijing. He also said that our main task is to conduct military operations in Ukraine, while Ukraine also claimed that Russian forces were establishing positions in Ukraine's Vovchansk town in the Kharkiv region. With these military advancements in the northern region, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has postponed all upcoming foreign visits. Well, the Kremlin said that Switzerland conference will be futile without the participation of Russia. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that without Russia discussing security issues that concern us is absolutely futile. He further added that it is most likely to be just empty scholasticism with no prospect of getting some tangible result. All right, and DD India correspondent Megumi Lim joins us for more details from Kiev. Megumi, apparently Russian military is advancing in all directions and establishing its position in several locations in Ukraine. What updates do you have for us? And could you tell us what are the specific locations that are being targeted by the forces?
Well, first of all, there's intense fighting going on in two sectors of the northeast Kharkiv region, which is where Russian forces mounted a major ground offensive last week. The first sector is in and around the town of Vovchansk, about 5 kilometers from the Russian border, but also in and around the town of Lipsy, which is farther west from Vovchansk. Today, a Russian installed official in Ukraine said that Russian forces were trying to advance towards Lipsy, which is located about 30 kilometers north from the city of Kharkiv, which is Ukraine's second largest city. He was saying that Russian forces have already arrived on the outskirts of Lipsy, and there was aviation and artillery constantly at work there. Now, the concern right now, although Ukrainian officials are doubtful that Russian forces will be able to advance and take the city of Kharkiv, which is Ukraine's second largest city. The concern here is now that Russian forces will be able to come closer to the city of Kharkiv and place it within their artillery range, which would mean, of course, a greater destruction and casualties in the city of Kharkiv. Now, elsewhere on the front lines, of course, fighting has not stopped in the east and south of the country. The Russian Defense Ministry said that Russian forces had taken the town of Robotyne down south, but Ukrainian troops are saying that they have not lost positions there. So things remain unclear, but it is clear that fighting seems to have escalated in and around that area. And it's also clear that Russian forces are trying to overstretch Ukraine's troops and resources as they wait for more weapons and supplies to arrive from the United States.
Okay, so you're saying that as we are talking, the gun shelling is taking place. Now, Megumi, tensions are building up in Ukraine's Vovchansk. Could you share some details regarding it?
That's right. Intense fighting is going on in and around Vovchansk as well. Again, this is a town 5 kilometers from the Russian border, and this is where Russian forces are trying to advance after they launched their ground offensive last weekend. Now, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry yesterday confirmed that Russian forces had already entered the northern part of Vovchansk, and a local police chief there said that Russian forces are taking up positions on the streets and that they are there are intense street battles taking place. Now, the latest that we're hearing today, according to Ukrainian Interior Minister Ihor Klimenko, he is saying that civilians there are being taken captive and being forced into basements. He said a Vovchansk resident was executed after refusing to obey orders from a Russian soldier and when he tried to escape on foot. Now, these claims cannot be and has not been verified, but what we do know is that these are accounts very similar to the kind of accounts that we've been hearing over and over again over the more than 2 years of war from Russian-occupied territories. Now, Ukrainian officials are also saying that the pace of Russian advance seems to have slowed since the early days of this ground offensive, but the situation remains serious enough that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky did cancel all his international trips that were planned for the coming days. And today he traveled to Kharkiv and met with his top commander and other senior military officials, and he described the battlefield situation as extremely difficult.
All right, we'll keep taking updates from you on this, Megumi, but as of now, thank you so much for joining in and thank you so much for your analysis. All right, let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. 3 people were killed and 16 others injured in a powerful explosion in a 6-story apartment building in the western German city of Düsseldorf on Thursday. The cause of the explosion inside the ground floor kiosk has not been determined. British armed forces alongside Polish and US troops engaged in training as part of Exercise Immediate Response, a crucial component of NATO's most extensive military maneuvers since the Cold War. At the outset of the drills in January, NATO disclosed plans for 90,000 troops to participate. The exercise involves over 50 vessels ranging from aircraft carriers to destroyers, along with more than 80 fighter jets, helicopters and drones. Leonel Fernandez, 3 times president of the Dominican Republic, intends to win the presidency of the Caribbean country for the 4th time in the elections on May 19th. Fernandez is a 70-year-old veteran politician and doctor of law who was president of the country 3 times for the Dominican Liberation Party from 1996 to 2000, 2004 to 2008 and 2008 to 2012. The Banksy Museum opened to the public in Lower Manhattan. The museum is a permanent exhibition of 160 works that are curated recreations of original works of the elusive street artist Banksy. It is the largest such exposition in the world. And still to come on DD India News Hour. 5 Israeli soldiers killed and several injured in northern Gaza Strip. More details ahead. India's think tank Niti Aayog says India's defense capabilities have gone up substantially. Slovakia is convening a State Security Council meet after Prime Minister Robert Fico shot in an assassination attempt.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
We are in Cannes, the famous city on the French Riviera. The 77th edition of the Cannes Film Festival is here. So soak into 12 days of world cinema and the hottest fashion trends. The famous 24 steps leading to the Palais des Festivals, where most of the cinema at this festival is screened, are beckoning. Join me, Munmun Bhattacharya, as I take you through all the buzz around the festival and on India's participation in it, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharatwaj. India's defense capabilities have gone up substantially during the past decade of the Modi government, and now the country is dependent on arms import only for immediate requirements of the armed forces. Niti Aayog member VK Saraswat told DD India that at present 60% of India's total arms and ammunition are indigenous.
India has significantly stepped up its indigenous manufacturing when it comes to the defense sector and significantly reduced its dependence on arms imports. So what kind of progress has been made on that? What kind of government policies have been able to affect that? To talk about that, I have with me Dr. VK Saraswat. He's the member of Niti Aayog. He was the former DRDO chief. Dr. Saraswat, what kind of dependence do we have on imports defense imports at the moment?
See, presently our import dependence has reduced considerably because indigenous technologies have been developed by DRDO, by our industry sector and academic institutions all put together. The policy changes which the present government has brought in of privatization of the defense has resulted in mushrooming of large number of industries which are today taking action to produce defense items indigenously. I'll give you an example now that today we have companies like L&T, companies like Adani Aerospace, we have companies like Tata's, we have Bharat Forge. These are some of the corporates and large number of MSMEs. These MSMEs are ranging into something like 300 to 400 numbers. All of them are engaged in the development and production of defense equipment.
But Dr. Saraswat, given that the capital expenditure on defense is bound to grow in the coming years, do you see the indigenous manufacturing capability within the country, both the government and the private players, being able to match that? Is the rate of growth of the indigenous industry matching the kind of requirement that we have?
Absolutely, it is matching. It is going to be enhanced with the kind of expansion of the industrial infrastructure which is taking place. You know, under the present government, we have opened up number of defense corridors. We have one in UP, we have one in Madras, we have many defense corridors are coming up. What is the purpose of these defense corridors? Basically to augment our indigenous production capability. Another thing that the policy under the Honorable Prime Minister has given impetus is to bring in industry and the Ministry of Defense, which includes DRDO and the defense production, to work in close collaboration for development and production of the indigenous equipment. You know, today DRDO is in a position to now transfer technologies to the private sector on a no payment basis. We are allowing now the private sector to come and use the facilities in DRDO. We have innovation programs like IDEX which are supporting large number of startups for making indigenous equipment. So if you take the complete category of indigenous items, right from missiles in which we are completely self-reliant, to guns, to tanks, to radars, to EW systems, to communication equipment, to bombs, to vehicles, I think whatever you need today for the Army, Navy and Air Force, we are able to do that. Our security infrastructure for doing such things is being also revamped so that there is certain level of which ensures that during production there are no leakages.
Dr. Saraswat, many thanks for speaking to us. So clearly there is a marked shift in the government's approach to defense production. That is why you see the indigenous capability go up, and the hope is that India becomes totally self-reliant when it comes to defense equipment. With cameraman Rahul Chopra, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in New Delhi.
As the fighting between Israel and Hamas intensified in Gaza, 5 Israeli soldiers were killed and several injured in the northern Gaza Strip after being struck by Israeli tank fire. The Israeli military said that there was a tank crossfire of the 202 Battalion. Israeli ground forces re-entered parts of northern Gaza this month to prevent Hamas from regrouping. Earlier, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asserted that eliminating Hamas in the Gaza Strip was necessary for any alternative Palestinian governance there.
Eliminating Hamas is an essential step in order to ensure that on the day after, there will be no element in Gaza that can threaten us. Until it is clear that Hamas does not control Gaza militarily, nobody will be prepared to take upon himself the civil management of Gaza out of fear for their lives. Therefore, all the talk about the day after, while Hamas remains intact, will remain mere words devoid of content.
Discussions on reaching a ceasefire in Gaza is expected to take the center stage as Arab League holds a summit in Bahrain on Thursday. Those in attendance at the 22-member grouping's meet include Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamas Al Thani. Qatar, along with Egypt, have been the main mediators between Israel and Hamas. All right, Sarah Coates joins us from Tel Aviv for more details. Sarah, what details do you have for us, as far as the ceasefire talks in Arab League are concerned?
Well, Bahrain's king opened this conference just a little while ago, calling for peace in the Middle East, saying that there needs to be an international summit focused on that issue. He said what the Palestinians need more than anything is a unified international stance. Now, we also heard from Saudi's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He said that he's urging the international community to back ceasefire efforts. Now, this is the first time that this Arab bloc has met in this capacity since that other major summit back in Riyadh in November. But certainly right now, when it comes to operations on the ground, it seems like a ceasefire may be a fair way away. What we've heard from the Defence Minister Yoav Gallant over the past hour is he says that there will be an expanded military operation down in this Rafah area, saying that more Israeli troops will be called up, will be put down in these eastern Rafah areas over the coming days. So certainly on the ground, what we are seeing are advancements being made by the Israelis. We're talking here Rafah and of course Jabalia, which is further north in the Gaza City region. So right now, of course, these ceasefire talks are coming with a lot more urgency, given that there are just so many displaced people and so many people have now been killed inside Gaza.
Okay. Sarah, now tell us, how significant would be the role of Qatar and Egypt as mediators in the ceasefire talks?
Well, we've seen the significance over the past few months of the Qataris and also the Egyptians. What we do need to remember here is that Qatar, of course, has a direct line to Hamas, given that some of these key Hamas leaders like Ismail Haniyeh are actually based there. So, of course, one can never underplay the effectiveness of these two parties. And of course the Egyptians, they have a real stakeholder in this, given that they share a border with Israel. So certainly what we do know is that these negotiations are ongoing still. We have been, of course, hearing from the Israelis time and time again that there will be no ceasefire until Hamas is completely dismantled, and this is why we are seeing this large-scale operation now beginning to take shape down in that southern area of Rafah. This is where the Israelis believe the remaining 4 Hamas battalions are stationed, and also they're of the belief that many of these 130 or so Israeli hostages that do remain in the Strip are actually being held in Rafah. So certainly a lot of urgency are between these mediating parties to try and get something on the table here. But so far, all of these attempts have failed, with the last time any kind of pause was established with any of these hostages out being last November.
All right, we'll keep taking updates from you, Sarah, but as of now, thank you so much for joining in and thank you for your analysis. Slovakia is convening a State Security Council meet after Prime Minister Robert Fico was shot in an assassination attempt. Fico is said to be in very serious but stable condition. The gunman shot Fico 5 times after he attended a government meeting in Handloa. Police said the 71-year-old shooter is in custody while the motive still remains unclear. Slovakia President has called for calm and the Minister of Defense Robert Kalinak. He said shooting of Robert Fica was a political assault.
About capability to understand each other, to accept the other opinion, that not only one is that good one. If somebody have a different opinion, it's also he have also his place on the earth and all in the political field. So this is the issue. What's happened? It's a political assault.
Donald Trump's ex-lawyer is back on the stand on Thursday in the former US President historic hush money trial. Cross-examination of Michael Cohen by the defense is expected to continue after getting off to a fiery start on Tuesday. Trump is accused of falsifying business records in the lead-up to the 2016 presidential elections. He has pleaded not guilty and calls the trial election interference. DD India's Sally Patterson has more. Have a look.
Michael Cohen's testimony could make or break this case for the prosecution. Donald Trump's hush money trial is taking place here in New York City, and the key witness is halfway through his testimony. Cohen was one time Trump's lawyer and fixer and is at the very heart of this case. He is the one who paid Stormy Daniels, an adult film star, $130,000 in order to keep her quiet about an affair she said she had with Trump 10 years before the payment allegedly took place in 2016, just before Americans headed to the polls for the presidential election. Now, Daniels says that payment was made to try and stop her speaking out about that alleged affair, which Trump denies ever happened. Then what's being looked at here by the prosecution is whether or not Donald Trump knew and approved that payment and how he then filed it. The prosecution alleges that Trump filed it as legal expenses, something they say is in fact illegal and was an attempt to try and suppress negative information ahead of the election and keep it from the American people before they voted on their next president. Michael Cohen has spent several days now speaking about his relationship with Donald Trump, the relationship he says that they had. He says that he once called Trump's family his surrogate family, but he says he used to lie on behalf of his boss in order to try and protect him. In fact, he said, "I regret doing things for him that I should not have. I violated my moral compass." That's what he told the jury when speaking about the lies he said he made on behalf of his former boss. Donald Trump has continued to call the whole case a witch hunt, saying that this is a ploy by his political opponents to try and keep him out of the White House. We also heard from his Republican allies speaking outside of court, who said that this was really an effort to keep Trump off of the campaign trail and inside a courtroom instead. Sally Patterson in New York reporting for DD India.
Sri Lanka is in discussion with India to establish an arms manufacturing unit in the island nation. Sri Lanka State Defence Minister Premitha Bandara Tenakun said discussions are ongoing at the moment with India to set up the small arms manufacturing unit.
In discussion with India to set up a small arms manufacturing unit. Indian defence manufacturing arm has boomed during the last 2 decades. It's a model that we have to look into. We can take a lot from Indian model. So it's nothing wrong in learning from them. We are in touch with our Indian counterparts, and so there's so much that we can take and learn from India, and with a little help we also can do wonders here. So those discussions are ongoing at the moment.
And let's take a look at other stories making news. The Supreme Court hearing on the bail of former Tamil Nadu Minister V. Senthil Balaji in a money laundering case has been postponed till July 10th. The hearing was postponed due to the absence of the Solicitor General from the Enforcement Directorate. India's National Commission for Women has summoned Bibhav Kumar to appear before the Commission on Friday. Kumar is a former personal secretary to Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. Bibhav Kumar has been accused of assaulting Aam Aadmi Party MP Swati Maliwal at the CM's residence in Delhi. The India Meteorological Department has forecast a wet spell with isolated heavy to very heavy rainfall to continue over the South Peninsular India till 22nd of May. Isolated extremely heavy rainfall is also very likely over the southern state of Tamil Nadu on 16th and 20th and Kerala on 20th May. Well, let's see what's coming up now. US President Joe Biden and Republican rival Donald Trump agreed to face off in two debates on June 27 and September 10th. Indian Coast Guard ship C-410 carries out prompt and safe medical evacuation. More details ahead.
As India decides in the world's largest election,
we help you feel the pulse of the nation.
I am Sakal Bhatt.
I am Shubhendu Ghosh.
This election season, join us on a journey of India.
We are in Assam. This is the tea city of India.
From down south, Tamil Nadu.
Discover the colors of democracy.
Gateway to northeast of India.
Coastal state of Kerala. Watch Poll Pulse on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. France has deployed troops to New Caledonia's ports and international airport, banned TikTok and imposed a state of emergency on Thursday after 3 nights of clashes that have left 4 dead and hundreds injured. France's Interior Minister has said that the state expects to regain control of the situation in New Caledonia very soon after a 3rd night of violent riots that have killed 4 people on the French Pacific island. Schools have been shut and there is already a curfew in the capital. Armed forces are also protecting Pacific Island's 2 airports. All right, and DD India's Ross Cullen joins us live from Paris. Ross, state of emergency has been imposed in New Caledonia as violent protest flared up against electoral reforms. Any development in the region?
Yeah, let's give you the latest now, which is that Gabriel Attal, the French Prime Minister, has given a news conference after a meeting of the Cabinet, after a meeting of the National Security and Defence Council as well, and Mr. Attal saying that the French government has 3 main objectives: to re-establish order in New Caledonia, to ensure that people can get back to their daily lives as soon as possible, and to create the conditions for dialogue. Gabriel Attal is saying that the situation on the ground is still very tense, and he has announced that there will be another 1,000 additional security personnel being sent to the island, soldiers and police and special forces police, to try to regain control and re-establish order and calm on the ground after these riots and the unrest that we have seen throughout this week.
Okay. 1,000 additional police personnel will be deployed. This is what you're saying. Ross, now, what else is the government doing to control the situation? You've told us, but can you just tell us in detail? And as far as New Caledonia is concerned, the territory has seen decades of tensions between Kanaks and European descendants over the issue of independence. What's the entire matter?
Well, Kanaks are the indigenous population, native New Caledonians. They make up about 41% of the population. And then the rest is a mix, really. It's very hard to define entirely. There are many different ethnic groups on the island, from Kanak population. Then there's the native European population and many other ethnicities as well on the island, which has been French since about 1850s. That's when France took it over and Napoleon III declared that it would become a French territory. It's currently an overseas territory, which means it has some self-governing powers. It does still send MPs and senators here to Paris, and the government is determined to also impose, it says, the harshest sanctions and penalties on those who have been rioting and people who have been looting, because we have seen though in many instances of those throughout the week. Also, something that is worth mentioning, over the last 24 hours or so, we have seen vigilante groups, these self-defense groups, starting to pop up. People with baseball bats and with guns around their local neighbourhoods, setting up roadblocks around roundabouts to try to protect their neighbourhood, their houses and their loved ones from people who have been carrying out the rioting and the looting. But the government determined to regain control over the island, which, as I say, is a French overseas territory, the Pacific island, located roughly between Australia and Fiji.
Okay. Ross will keep taking updates on this. Thank you so much for joining in, and thank you for your assessment. All right, from Paris, we take you to India, and let's get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election here. Campaigning continues in full swing for the last three phases of India's ongoing elections. Voting for the fifth phase to be held on 20th May across 49 constituencies in 6 states and 2 union territories. Senior BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is campaigning in Uttar Pradesh today. Addressing a public meeting in Lalganj, Prime Minister lauded the implementation of Citizenship Amendment Act and accused the opposition parties for spreading lies about CAA. PM Modi noted that the work towards giving citizenship to those who are victims of partition has already started under CAA.
मोदी की गारंटी का मतलब क्या होता है, इसका ताजा उदाहरण CAA कानून है। CAA कानून है और आपने देखा होगा कल ही CAA कानून के तहत शरणार्थियों को भारत की नागरिकता देने का काम शुरू हो गया। ये वो लोग हैं जो धर्म के आधार पर हुए भारत के बंटवारे का शिकार हुए थे। और मजा देखिए, ये महात्मा गांधी का नाम लेकर के सत्ता की सीढ़ियां तो चढ़ जाते हैं, लेकिन महात्मा गांधी की बातों को याद नहीं रखते हैं।
PM Modi also held an election rally in Jaunpur. Senior BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah also addressed a public rally in Bihar's Sitamarhi and Madhubani. In Odisha, BJP National President JP Nadda held a roadshow in Bhubaneswar and addressed public meetings in Bargarh. Top leaders of opposition parties are also holding rallies across the country to woo the voters. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge addressed a press conference in Odisha. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra campaigned for his brother and party leader Rahul Gandhi in Uttar Pradesh's Raebareli. She held a public rally in Raebareli. Aam Aadmi Party Supremo and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal is in Uttar Pradesh's Lucknow, where he held a joint press conference with Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav. The electoral politics of Bongaon Lok Sabha constituency is dominated by the issue of implementation of the Citizenship Amendment Act. Now, with 14 citizenship granted to the persecuted minorities from Pakistan yesterday, the Matua community, which holds a sway in Bengal, is celebrating the CAA. Take a look at this report filed by our correspondent, Debbie Endumondal.
Here in the Bongaon Lok Sabha constituency, where the Citizenship Amendment Act has been a crucial point of politics over the last couple of years. What you see behind me are the Matua community who are celebrating the implementation of the Citizenship Amendment Act. Just yesterday, 14 people in Delhi was handed over the Indian citizenship by the Union Home Secretary. This is the seat of power of the Matua community in Bengal. The Citizenship Amendment Act passed in 2019 has been now implemented, and the politics of the Bongaon Lok Sabha constituency flows particularly from here. These are the people who had come from Bangladesh since the 1947 and had been a refugee in India. They had been demanding for long a status, a formal Indian citizenship status here, which has now been guaranteed. How the politics will shape up this time around in the Bongaon Lok Sabha constituency, these are the people that will decide the fate of the political leaders from here. With camera person PK, this is Dibyendu Mondal from Bongaon Thakurnagar, West Bengal for DD India.
Okay, and our correspondent Dibyendu Mondal is joining us from Bongaon, West Bengal. Dibyendu, we just saw your report, and in that we saw the Matua community people enjoying the CAA. Tell us what they think about CAA.
Well, Siddharth, that's right. The people here in Bengal, specifically in the Bongaon Lok Sabha constituency, are the people who belong to the Matua community. This is a reserved seat, and the BJP's Shantanu Thakur is contesting elections from here. He himself is a Matua. He himself is also the head of the All India Matua Mahasangh. So he says, and the politics here, of course, is about the granting of the citizenship to these persecuted minorities that had come in from Bangladesh into India. Where I am standing right now, Siddharth, is just about 1.5 kilometers from Bangladesh. This is the border that borders India and Bangladesh. It is through this particular border that these persecuted minorities had come into India way back in the 1947 and 1971 due to the persecution that they were facing there. Ever since then, there had been a long pending demand of granting them formal citizenship of India, which was promised by the BJP in 2019 and delivered by the BJP government in 2024 when the notification for the CAA was implemented. So of course, after the implementation, there has been a sense of euphoria amongst the people here in this particular constituency, and not just this, Siddharth, the neighboring constituencies of where I am currently, Bongaon, is also affected and impacted by the Citizenship Amendment Act because of the fact that a large number of this particular Matua community also resides in these neighboring constituencies, which and they constitute a significant number of voters that can sway the political luck of the political leaders that are contesting from these particular constituencies. In total, there are about 25 to 26 assembly segments and about 5 to 6 parliamentary constituencies where this particular community holds a massive political political power and would decide who the political leaders would be elected from here. So of course, the politics here, as I said, flows through the power center of the Matua community, and they are of course very elated. They had supported the BJP in 2019, hoping that the BJP would grant them formal citizenship, which has now been delivered. They are extremely happy. They say that they will be by the BJP, by the side of the BJP even in this election, and no sort of political gimmick that is being done by the opposition parties of not being of saying that they will not be given the citizenship, and it was just a political gimmick by the BJP is not going down well for the opposition parties here in this particular constituencies. Yes, Siddharth.
Thank you so much. We'll keep taking updates from you, Dibyendu, and you take care. You are there out on the field. Stay hydrated. Indian Coast Guard ship C-410 carried out a prompt and safe medical evacuation of a 62-year-old ill crew of merchant vessel Alvin Point off the southern coast of Kochi. The patient was safely shifted to a hospital in Kochi for further medical management. We take you to United States now. Highest stakes moments yet of the race for the White House and are now decided. US President Joe Biden and Republican rival Donald Trump agreed Wednesday to debate each other twice, first on June 27th and again on September 10th. This comes after a rapid back and forth between their campaigns and a flurry of taunts and insults from the candidates. For months, it had been unclear whether Biden and Trump would even square off in a debate before the November election. In a social media post, Joe Biden called on his opponent Donald Trump to join him for presidential debates, saying that Trump had lost 2 debates to him in the year 2020. Trump also accepted the offer via a post on social media, asserting that Biden was the worst debater he had ever faced, who cannot put two sentences together.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
All right, and still to come on DD India News Hour, we give you all the updates of Cannes Film Festival 2024.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
After India became independent in 1947, the founding fathers of the Indian Republic envisaged a representative parliamentary democracy based on the universal adult franchise. Keeping in line with those ethos, the Election Commission of India was established on 25th of January 1950. The ECI is an autonomous constitutional body responsible for conducting and regulating polls. Its powers are broadly divided into 3 categories: administrative, advisory and judicial. The administrative powers include registration of eligible voters, preparation of poll schedule depending on the availability of resources both in terms of execution and security needs, scrutinize nomination papers of candidates. The poll body's most important task is to ensure the fairness of the You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Now update from Cannes Film Festival 2024. India is going to host Day 3 for India at the Cannes Film Festival. We'll see India hosting a Bharat Parv for the first time. It will be a networking evening where Indian talent and opportunities will be showcased, and the 2 marquee film festivals of India, MIF and IFFI, will be promoted. The day will also see a number of roundtables at the Bharat Pavilion on co-producing with India, the complete filming destination, the magic of authentic storytelling and convergence of technology in filmmaking. DD India's Munmun Bhattacharya reports. Take a look.
In a year that spells magic for Bharat at the 77th Cannes Film Festival, with so many Indian selections across categories, the Bharat Pavilion was inaugurated amid much fanfare at this festival in France. Hosted each year at the prestigious Cannes Film Festival by the Information and Broadcasting Ministry of the Government of India, Bharat's participation is spearheaded by the National Film Development Corporation as the nodal agency and FICCI as the industry partner. The pavilion marks India's continued commitment to showcasing its rich cinematic heritage and fostering international collaborations with the global film fraternity. The grand inauguration ceremony was led by Secretary, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting Sanjay Jaju and Indian Ambassador to France and Monaco, Javed Ashraf. The momentous inauguration was witnessed by renowned filmmakers and industry leaders who came together to celebrate the essence of Indian cinema. The Bharat Pavilion is a dynamic platform. It provides a gateway to the diverse landscape of Indian films, talent and industry opportunities. It is set to host a series of scintillating panel discussions and networking sessions during the course of the festival and be the place that the Indian film fraternity calls home away from home. With cameraman YK Loknath, this is Munmun Bhattacharya from Cannes for DD India.
DD India's Munmun Bhattacharya spoke to Alan McCalix, the Indian producer of Sister Midnight and Santosh. Both films are in official selection of Cannes Film Festival this year. Take a listen.
Joining me in Cannes is Alan McCalix. He is the Indian producer of Santosh as well as Sister Midnight, both of which are official selections from India in the Cannes Film Festival this year. Such a pleasure to have you, Alan, on DD India. What I found quite interesting is that both these movies have taken benefit of the incentive scheme of the Government of India. So tell us, how did that happen and what are the incentives that these two films enjoy?
Yes, the incentive was announced in May 2022 out here in Cannes, and it was in 22, end of the 22 is when we decided to get into production, and I had no clue, if this money is real. Nobody in the UK side also was sure. So we never used this incentive as part of the finance plan. We always thought, okay, it's a bonus that would come in at later in the production. But then since the budget was quite tight, we didn't want to cut the budget. So we took a risk of using certain expenses deferred on the incentive. And yes, we finally got money on both the projects in March 2020. This year, March 2024. I would say Santosh took 3 months from the time we applied, and same with Sister Midnight took a little longer. It was our first project, so we understood the paperwork, we understood the documentation. But yes, it is real. Now, if everyone asks me, is this money real? I keep telling them now, it is real. We got the money, and that's how and thanks to NFDC, the Film Facilitation Office, and the Ministry of Information and Broadcast, they made it all seamless.
India's football icon Sunil Chhetri announced on Thursday that he will retire from international football after the FIFA World Cup qualification match against Kuwait on June 6th.
A heroic career, an icon, a personality of resilience, solid on the field, a leader, the captain and a man of toughness, Sunil Chhetri calls time on a memorable international career, hanging his boots after serving nearly 2 decades to Indian football. The national football team captain announced his decision via a video he posted on his social media account. Chhetri at 39 has played for the country for 19 years, having scored his first goal during his debut match in 2005. He is among the country's most celebrated players, credited with shining a spotlight on Indian football nationally and internationally amidst a cricketing-centric culture. Chhetri in his final message spoke about the high and low points in his long career.
The feeling that I recollect in the last 19 years is a very nice combination between duty, pressure and immense joy. I never thought individually these are the many games that I've played for the country, this is what I've done, good or bad. But now I did it. This last 1.5, 2 months, I did it. And it was very strange. I did it because probably I was going towards the decision that this next game is going to be my last. And the moment I told myself first that yes, this is the game that is going to be my last, is when I started recollecting everything. And it was so strange. Started thinking about this game, this coach, that team, that member, that ground, that away match, this good game, that bad game, all my individual performances, everything came, all the flashes came.
In the words of the late Novi Kapadia, Chhetri's legacy is because of his disciplined lifestyle. In 2018, Kapadia described Chhetri as a disciplined lifestyle, the discipline that requires controlled diet, keeping himself fit and motivated. Sunil and Baichung Bhutia's long-lasting career deserve full credit, Sunil even more. It is very easy for many Indian footballers to fall into the trap of being content with minor achievements, but Sunil has not been content. Sunil is a role model. In India, he won several football awards, including the Arjuna Award, the country's second highest sporting award, and the Padma Shri, India's fourth highest civilian award. On the global stage, he has led the team to victory in the Asian Football Confederation AFC Challenge Cup, the South Asian Football Federation Championship, the Intercontinental Cup, and many more. Chhetri has scored 94 goals for his country. He will leave the scene as India's all-time top scorer and most capped player. He is also third in the list of goal scorers among active players behind Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. Sunil, who began his career playing club football and state football in Delhi, is now the poster boy of Indian football. As he bids goodbye, we wish him all the best and hope he continues his journey in helping football grow in some way or the other in India. Sports Desk, DD India.
And Arina Sabalenka cruised into the semi-finals of the Rome Open on Wednesday after comfortably defeating Jelena Ostapenko in straight sets 6-2, 6-4. Second seed Sabalenka needed an hour and 13 minutes to see off Ostapenko and improve her record against her Latvian opponent to 3 wins and no defeats. Juventus beat Atalanta 1-0 to win a record-extending 15th Coppa Italia on Wednesday, as an early strike by Dusan Vlahovic earned the club their first trophy in 3 years. The club also holds the record for most Italian Cup finals played and won. However, they had not lifted any silverware since they won the competition in 2020-21, where they also beat Atalanta in the final. Meanwhile, Juventus coach Massimiliano Allegri became the first coach to win the Coppa Italia 5 times after Sven-Goran Eriksson and Roberto Mancini lifted the trophy on 4 occasions. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.